January 12th. Welcome to studentloanjustice.org live stream. If you have any questions or comments, throw them out now. And if I can see them, I will gladly respond to them. So tonight, I want to talk about the opposition attacks. We've been fighting this battle for 16 years now, folks. This is going to be the hardest month of our existence. The student loan, I'm going to say swamp people are freaking out right now, and they are holding nothing back in fighting to preserve this failed, unconstitutional, catastrophically unsavable lending scam. They are worried. They wanted the loans to be turned back on February 1st. That didn't happen. They really want to get these loans turned on May 1st. And make no mistake, they are fighting for their lives or their livelihoods anyhow. It's getting nasty. So two things happened today. One blatant, one less blatant, but even more sort of creepy that I'll take you through quickly. So number one, Steve Bannon, economic populist, Trump advisor. He's really sort of the brain trust for MAGA Nation. He's pretty much the thought leader for the Republican Party right now, besides Donald Trump, maybe. So for years, I paid very close attention to Mr. Bannon. I'm very impressed with what he was able to do. Economic populism is a thing. He's certainly to be taken seriously. Of that, there is no doubt. And for years, he was quiet. He was silent on the student loan issue. And I thought to myself, maybe he's smarter than I maybe originally gave him credit for. While all the other talking heads on many of the other conservative media were like, we shouldn't cancel loans. That's unfair. It benefits rich people. And we don't want the liberal snowflakes to get a free ride to college and all that sort of nonsense. I thought maybe Steve Bannon was a little above it. Well, today, all of my hopes were trashed. So I make it a habit to keep tabs on a show he does called The War Room. I tuned in today, and the first words I saw come out of his mouth were, you want to zero the student loan debt out? No. How about this? How about make them pay every cent back? Is what Steve Bannon said. Talk about an ice pick between my eyes. I mean, I kind of expected it. Bannon had his entire college, not to mention pretty much his whole early career paid for by the federal government, courtesy of West Point and the U.S. Department of Defense, and a career after that at Goldman Sachs. So I wasn't hopeful, but, I really sort of took him at his word that he was very serious about economic populism. He talked bad about the corporations, et cetera, et cetera. So today he removed all hope, at least for me. Now, here's what Steve Bannon doesn't realize. 55% of student loan borrowers, maybe more, are either Republican or independent. Over half, certainly. 40% never graduated. The red states are being absolutely devastated certainly by federal student loans. Most people with student loans are over the age of 35. There are more people over the age of 50 with student loans than under the age of 25. The people with student loans are not your liberal snowflake elitists. Liberal elitists, by definition, don't even get student loans. The people being buried by this lending scam are normal people, and they are in MAGA Nation as much as they are any other party. Steve Bannon does not get it, and he made a big mistake today. If anybody out there does get her, I urge you to send him this video. He needs to hear from us. He needs to hear the straight truth about this lending scam. This is This is a big government, some would say socialistic, certainly college enriching monstrosity that no true conservative could ever get behind. Steve Bannon, he really shot his mouth off today. Now, I say I lost all hope. That's not true. I think Steve Bannon is a smart guy. I think once he looks at the data and once he realizes that student loan borrowers, 45 million federal student loan borrowers, another 10 or 15 million private student loan borrowers and cosigners, we constitute nearly enough people to elect a president outright. We are the reason that the Republicans lost the Georgia election. We're the reason that Trump lost the general election. So I still hold out a little bit of hope that we can get through to Steve Bannon. And whether you like him or hate him, I hope that you will find a way. If you're watching us on Twitter, look at our Twitter account and see the tweet that we just made for Steve Bannon and retweet the crap out of that. If you do Getter, go to our Getter account and forward the Getter post that we just did to Steve Bannon and everybody around him. So Raheem Kassam, Peter Navarro, Boris Epstein, Maureen Bannon, whoever you can think of, we deserve a fair hearing with this guy. And I think that, in fact, I know he will come around to being on our side, like many other conservative Republicans are. Like conservative Wayne Johnson, Georgian, Trump appointee who ran the federal lending system, like conservative Catherine Austin Fitts, former board member of Sallie Mae, like many, many, many other conservatives out there who, at a minimum, agree with us that bankruptcy protections must be returned to student loans. Steve Bannon needs to inculcate this if the Republicans want to have any shot at being viable in both statewide elections in states like Georgia, Michigan, other places who are being absolutely wrecked by student loan debt, but also nationally. So this is very important, guys, whether you like Steve Bannon or hate him. Let's try and get through to him, shall we? So the other piece that, I mean, upon first read, it seems pretty reasonable. It's a piece by Adam Levitin, a bankruptcy scholar from I think the American Bankruptcy Institute, a piece calling for a new revised income-driven repayment plan. Now, I have no problem with an income-driven repayment program on paper necessarily. What I have a problem with is any sort of a repayment program that anyone might design in the absence of bankruptcy protections. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been fooled by the lending system, the swamp apologists, the student loan system defenders over many years and decades. What they have done in the past is they have tried to foist all manner of student loan cancellation or forgiveness or repayment programs, income-driven repayment, as is in the current article, income contingent repayment, income-based repayment. All of these repayment programs we have seen come and go. All of them have badly, cruelly failed. 90 on average, 90 altogether, some in total. 99.9% of the people who tried for them. In the absence of bankruptcy, these programs have been administered in the most vicious, cruel, worst sort of bad faith that you can possibly imagine. The Department of Education and its contractors have no desire or intentions of canceling any loans. That much is clear. So to see these couple of Georgetown academics trot out yet another income-driven repayment program, I can take it or leave it, but in talking a little more deeply with the authors, it was very obvious. In fact, Adam Levitin, again, a bankruptcy scholar at the American Bankruptcy Institute, many other places, currently teaches at Georgetown. He argued directly against the return of bankruptcy protections to student loans. Here is a bankruptcy scholar writing an article that makes zero mention of bankruptcy for federal student loans. That is, if nothing else, that's a professional. That's like a professional felony. That's like the most egregious sort of professional. What's the word? It's like a crime or something. It's a terrible thing. If you're a bankruptcy scholar like Adam Levitin claims to be, and you've been following the student loan fiasco over many years and decades, he, above all else, should know. And more than that, he, above all else, should have been, like we have been, standing from on the rooftops, pointing to this massive constitutional injustice, removing bankruptcy protections from student loans, that lies at the heart, at the cornerstone of this entire lending fiasco. And here's a quote from Adam Levitin. I really want to drive this one home, guys. I don't think Adam is necessarily a bad person, but hey, your life's work defines you. And he's been doing this for as long as I have, because I remember reading his stuff on credit slips, places where Elizabeth Warren and Robert Lawless, many other acclaimed bankruptcy scholars wrote. And so here, number one, he said bankruptcy is not the right path, is not the right solution for student loans. And he trotted out all of the old, well-worn bankers' rhetorical statements, arguments, which held no water then, held even less water now. And you can see the Twitter exchange for yourself if you go to our Twitter account, twitter.com/studentloanjust1. You can find it. I have to say, I pretty much wrecked him. I mean, he was wrong on every point. But here's one quote from Adam in particular that Adam said verbatim. Adam said, quote unquote, quote, federal student loans are easily the most consumer friendly credit product in existence. End quote. Let me just repeat that. So this is Adam Levitin, noted bankruptcy scholar. Federal student loans are easily the most consumer-friendly credit product in existence. So let's look at that. Consumer-friendly, right? Consumer, one would think, okay, so they probably have like more consumer protections than other loans. Well, let's look at federal student loans compared to all other loans. Bankruptcy rights. All other loans have them. Student loans have been uniquely stripped of them. Statutes of limitations, very important consumer protection. They are uniquely gone from federal student loans, and only from federal student loans. They exist for all other student loans, all other loans. They do exist for private student loans. They do not exist for federal student loans. They do exist for all other loans. Truth in lending laws. Truth in lending laws do not apply to federal student loans. So they do apply to all other loans that I'm aware of, certainly all private loans. Fair debt collection practice laws, like, when collection companies call you at 3 a.m. and they call your neighbors and your friends and they tell them that you're in trouble. All those sorts of laws that supposedly protect the borrowers, those are greatly restricted. In fact, they don't really even apply to federal student loans where there's a nonprofit owner of the loan. And that's been debated in the court, but by and large, they are greatly, let's just say, limited. They exist for all other loans. State usury laws. State usury laws apply, to the best of my knowledge, certainly all private loans. I think they apply to most federal federal loans. Could be wrong. But certainly all other private loans have are not exempt from state usury laws. Federal student loans are indeed exempt. So I just named for you 5 very fundamental consumer protections that any sort of a friendly loan, one would hope, would have. Student loans are stripped of all of them. All of them. In fact, I would be very hard pressed to even name a consumer protection that exists for federal student loans. I mean, I think I just mentioned like all of them, right? Are there any others? I don't know. So this is what Adam says. Federal student loans are easily the most consumer-friendly credit product in the universe, in existence. So to be fair, playing devil's advocate here, I think what Adam was referring to was the fact that there is no credit check required and that you can borrow huge amounts of money with no credit history. Sorry, but how is that friendly? How is it a friendly thing to dump tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars of predatory debt, stripped of all those consumer protections I just mentioned, and with a collection regime standing behind it that is stronger than any mafia lender ever had, ever? They can get you fired from public employment. They can garnish your wage. They can garnish your tax, all without a court order. They can steal your Social Security from you. They can hound you for the rest of your life, and they do. Why is it a friendly act to saddle largely unsuspecting students and their parents with this non-dischargeable, toxic, weaponized debt? So, Adam Levitin, if you're watching this, please answer that question. You certainly didn't answer it in our little Twitter engagement today. But here's the bigger picture, guys. The defenders of the lending system have foisted fake loan cancellation, loan repayment programs on us for decades now, going back to 2007 and before. I think Adam probably ran in that crowd. Yeah, he did. I think he was in the game in 2007. So he probably deserves a lot of culpability for it. Certainly today, in the current zeitgeist, he deserves a lot of culpability for it. And more than that, I mean, shame on Adam Levitin. Somebody who holds the mantle of being a bankruptcy scholar has a duty, an obligation, a professional, moral responsibility to point out that the removal of bankruptcy protections from student loans is exactly and almost entirely, not entirely, but almost entirely, but is precisely what caused this lending system to spiral out of control and ruin, destroy the lives and livelihoods of tens of millions of people, and threatens to ruin the livelihoods, maybe even lives, like actual lives, of tens of millions of more people. It's because people like Adam Levitin sat up in their ivory towers at Georgetown University, looked down on the rabble being destroyed by this toxic debt, and said nothing. What's that they say? The only thing you need to do to destroy the world is for good men to do nothing. Well, I don't know if Adam is a good man or a bad man, but I do know that he did nothing. Shame on him. So, folks, the action items tonight are really quick. Go to our Twitter, like I said, our Twitter account, twitter.com/studentloanjust1. Retweet our stuff. Get our thing to Steve Bannon, to his people. Get our thing to Adam Levitin, to anyone and everyone. Be smart, be creative, be clever. Think for yourself. We can't do that. I certainly can't do this on my own. I'm only one guy. We are nothing unless we act as a collective cooperative whole. We've got over 1 million people on our petition now. We've got thousands of people, tens of thousands of people on our Facebook, and probably 100 or more thousand people across our other platforms. This should not be hard, ladies and gentlemen. This is your fight. This is your battle. These are your loans. And as long as you sit there and do nothing and wait and watch and worry and think that somebody else is going to pull your weight for you, we're going to get another bullshit, nonsensical loan cancellation plan, maybe an IDR plan like Adam Levitin and his colleagues are pushing. Bankruptcy, it will be fake. It will be nothing. It will be almost nothing for almost everybody. It will be absolutely nothing for many. And we will see the continued absence of bankruptcy protections. And this lending system will, I shudder to think at what it will do to tens, maybe even hundreds of millions of people. This is a very important battle you and I are engaged in, ladies and gentlemen. You've got to fight it. Nobody's going to pull your weight for you. People like Adam Levitin and Steve Bannon, they will bury us with this bullshit, and we can't allow it to happen. You need to take this personally because these are your loans. This is your problem. And remember also, May 1st is coming up. We are going to see a massive student loan default. Ask yourself this one question. Would you like to face May 1st with the threat, with the tool of bankruptcy protections back on your side? Or would you rather face May 1st naked and afraid like you are today? Naked, afraid, and vulnerable. Final point, we are not going to see meaningful student loan cancellation, ladies and gentlemen, unless and until we get the threat of bankruptcy back on our side. You have no idea how important bankruptcy is. Nobody wants to fight for it. It's a terrible thing to have to do. And quite frankly, few people should ever have to even file when we get the right returned. Just having the threat of bankruptcy is what is so important and what has been missing from this student loan nightmare for 40 years now. So we need you fighting with us, ladies and gentlemen. The very last thing I will say is please get into the habit of doing our daily actions. Go to our website, studentloanjustice.org. These actions are very quick. They take almost no time to complete. When 5 people do it, it doesn't really amount to much. When 100,000 people do it, it amounts to a lot. It amounts to a mountain. So just ask yourself, do you want to spend the rest of your life stuck under this ridiculous toxic debt, this ridiculous toxic unconstitutional debt? Or do you want to put in a couple minutes a day and do you want to help us fight? Think about it. So on that note, I think we may have a comment here on Twitter. And the very last thing I'm going to say, we are doing a very interesting seminar. We're giving a talk tomorrow with people from Stanford University, University of Southern California, UC Irvine. Many members of the press and others will be there. We're going to be talking all about the student loan problem. It's happening tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time, I believe. But if you look down in the comments on our Twitter, you can see the Zoom invite for it. It is free. Jump onto it. I believe there's going to be public discussion, so you can make yourself heard. Do that. It will help, and it'll be hopefully a lot of fun. There's some really good people there. John Oberg, who's a long-time friend of ours, he was one of the original whistleblowers exposing the corruption of the Department of Education. Elizabeth Shermer, who is just on fire, and she just published a really good book called Indentured Students. Anyways, it's going to be strong. Sign up for it. I hope to see you there. Guys, come on. We got to fight. What are you doing? You got to help us. This is not a hard battle to win, but you've got to show up to fight it. So, all right, guys, I'm yelling myself hoarse here, but just rewind this thing if you need to see it again. Help us. Help us. Good luck. Godspeed. Hope to see you tomorrow. God bless everybody.